Hello and welcome to another episode of the Game Dev London podcast. I'm your host for today, Roxanne Marshall. You can refer to me as she, her. Today we are talking about gaming events and how to survive them, how to make the most of them, and how to just set yourself up to have a really great time. And I'm joined by a special guest today. Dan, would you care to introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, so I'm Dan. You can refer to me as they, them. I'm the community manager and lead Discord moderator at GDL, as well as other places on the internet.
Welcome, Dan.
I think that's the best way of putting it. Thank you.
It is Dan's first GDL podcast, so I'm very excited
Mhm.
to be speaking with you today. We were just chatting before we kicked off about some not so great kind of gaming event experiences, and I went to EGX last year. I just started my first job in kind of gaming,
Mhm.
and I had an invite, and I was like, great, super excited. I'd never actually been to EGX before, and I went, and I was like, now what? And I'd been to like Comic Cons and loads of different events
Yeah.
all around the UK. And I just got there and I was like, this could be really helpful for me in my career. And I don't know what to do with myself. And I hadn't kind of really looked at what was going to be there, who was going to be there. I just kind of showed up, walked around for a bit, and then I was like, I think I'm going to go. And I was probably only there for a couple of hours and I left. So
Mm.
it wasn't a very good experience. I don't know if you've had anything similar where you just kind of wasn't quite prepared.
Surprisingly enough, because I have social anxiety, like that feeling kind of comes across like I think more recently when it's come to like professional events. So most of it networking mixers and things like that, where you're kind of expected to put on kind of a persona, a bit of a face. Um, and I've been kind of thinking about that recently. Uh, and potentially I'm going to write a bit of an article about it on LinkedIn or somewhere on the internet, just about how again, like how to survive it, how to prepare for it, and maybe sometimes if you don't feel okay, that's okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, um, the industry is there to not be uncomfortable. It's there because people enjoy it, and events should be no different, really.
I think what you said about kind of social anxiety, I think events firstly need to do a better job at making it more accessible for
Mm,
a variety of people, whether you are socially anxious or you're introverted or have sensory sensitivities
yeah,
or, you know, various neurodivergent um, symptoms. A lot of events are just simply not set up for all of the above.
yeah. I mean, your typical event structure, if you're looking at like say if you take an event like I guess develop EGX as well, like you mentioned, like for the professional parts of those events is mostly like some places do it better, some places do it worse, but like usually it is the typical kind of stand around a bar with alcohol or non-alcohol, whatever is available on offer, and just kind of talk. Which for some, if you have a group that you already know, is perfectly okay. But if you're, I definitely felt this when I was a newcomer. It definitely feels a bit, I guess, alienating to be like, cool, I'm at this bar now. How do I talk to people? You know, it's hard to. I think I was when I first looked into industry. There was a talk I did on how to network and not make it feel so corporate in a way, and for that it was a lot of kind of fake confidence, those kind of tips which are helpful. It's just not the one size fits all kind of solution that people think it is. Not everyone's able to be that confident, and some people just slip into it naturally.
It can be really daunting as well, like you said. A lot of and this is the same for all events. I went to Comic Cons for about 12 years. There's a lot of cliques of
Mm,
people, and it's easy to say just go and talk to someone, but when there's just groups of people, you're like, well, one, you have kind of that imposter syndrome of why are they going to want to talk to me, but two,
Yeah.
they could equally be as kind
Just
of
as
anxious,
anxious. Yeah.
and so you don't want to go up to someone and just, you know, cold be like, can I join your conversation? Because
Yeah.
also then you could start talking to them and be like, I don't really know what, I don't have anything to say to these people, we're, you know, our interests aren't aligned, or and at a gaming event you're probably
Different.
going to have something, but
Yeah.
that's still, it's still there, I guess it's still a problem.
I mean, you have, at least for Comic Cons, and this is true for games as well. Like, you have different fandoms. You have different, you know, people interested in different IP, different genres of games. Um, it's double edged sword. Like, you know, we're all gamers at these a majority of these events, but we don't all like the same games. Like, we might know, obviously, like whatever the latest Zelda or whatever else is you know, flavor of the month kind of thing. Um, but if you're not into those sorts of games or you can't access those games, it's a little bit more difficult. Um, I found that, at least when I went to Comic Cons on the odd occasion, like before the pandemic, to some degree, I used cosplay as a way to get people to talk to me in a way. Albeit it was because I was already in like a specific fandom, so that made it a lot easier. But I think if there's definitely ways that you can get people to talk to you, it makes it a little bit. It might make it a little bit easier. You know,
Yeah.
it's a mix of how much attention do you want versus how are you going to achieve your goals while at a specific event, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You went to develop recently. Was that
Yeah,
a better experience for you?
I think it was better than what I was doing. So I've been to the past two develops, and I think this one I think I felt a little bit more comfortable because I was obviously a part of GDL and running some events there, and you know, being in charge of kind of those events management of um kind of appointments, things that, you know, panels that we wanted to go to, things like that. And just generally being having Stuart as like a wingman, so to speak, to be like, hey, I am here, but you to meet this cool person. This is Dan. They're really cool. Talk. And for me, having that wing person is it's it it's very helpful, but at the same time, it can also feel very almost burdensome in a way. Like, I don't want to have to rely. I want to be able to do this on my own merit, but at the same time, like, I'm not gonna turn down help either. Like, if I feel like I need it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to have, a wing person, a buddy. But like you
Oh,
said, you
buddy.
don't want to kind of just have, you don't want to feel like you're a burden on someone. So maybe it's
Mm,
just making sure you have a couple of people in a couple of different areas that
mm,
you might be able to meet up with, and events like you said. GDL ran some events this year to help people just meet up and get away from the space, and there's always events, even the event will always put on kind of mini events, but there will always be
yeah.
community groups who are putting on events, whether that's, you know, fandom focused meetups or industry focused meetups. I know that some voice actor friends have their own little meetup that they do, so definitely have a look out for events that are kind of relevant to you to find. What else set you up for success at Develop, do you think?
I think probably having more of an idea of what develop was from the first time round, knowing that obviously there are all those satellite events happening, definitely made me able to kind of plan my time a bit more, um, as to what might be relevant to me, what might not be, um, and just definitely trying to knowing where the people are and having the choice to be able to either avoid situations or commit to situations if I feel like it'll be beneficial. Really, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's something that's potentially important that people could learn. I think I made a kind of very loose guide a week or two before develop for the GDL community. And I think on there I put on like 5 or 6 tips on there on how to survive develop, just based on what I had learned. And I think one of them literally was, you don't have to do everything. Like if you're going to, it doesn't even have to be developed. Like if you're going to any gaming event, you don't have to do everything. Like if you only want to go because you want to meet, say, one voice actor and get something signed, that's cool. If you've got a group of friends that are doing a really cool cosplay photo shoot, go for that, because it's really, if that's your thing, it's a fun experience. Yeah, it's just about, I guess in a way, it's finding out what you want from an event and kind of sticking to it. And at the same time, it's fine if the plan's a bit loose, if that helps you as well.
Yeah, I think setting your intention is a really good one, and I've definitely done that before where I'm like, I don't really need to plan because I'll just walk around and I know I want to do this, but then you get distracted. I think if you set your intentions of, why am I going to this event? What do I want to get out of it, just in general, and then make sure that if there's something you absolutely want to do, look at anything else you want to do, make sure they don't clash, because there's definitely going to be clashes.
Yeah.
Make sure you can get there in time, because some events are so massive that, and with the crowds and stuff, it takes so long to get from one space to another. To kind of set your intentions and set your priorities of what you want to do, see who you want to meet, and make sure that that is actually realistic. And then, like you said, give yourself a bit of space to say, you know what, it's midday, but I'm full. I've got no spoons to give. Like, I've had enough. I'm going to go and have an ice cream on the beach.
The battery's empty. We need a flake over here.
Yeah. Speaking of, how do you reset partway through if ice creams on the beach are not always an option?
Ice cream's on the beach.
if you've had to kind of step away, and like we mentioned earlier, there's not always a space really to just step away. What would you suggest doing if you just needed a bit of a break throughout an event?
I'd say, like, if you do have, say, sensory issues, then I'd say pack a pair of noise cancelling headphones, because quite honestly, you could just step away and listen to whatever music calms you down. That's perfectly fine. You could just sit. For places like Develop, like, there's loads of like coffee shops and restaurants around. You could just slip in there and just listen to some music, or if you do have a hotel room or an Airbnb, go out to there as well. Potentially, if you've got like a Switch or a handheld console or even a mobile phone, like, it's fine to just play a game on that for a little bit if you need to recharge. I will say it's something that I'm still trying to learn, especially in so the distinction I want to make is between like professional networking events and like EGX, your kind of like consumer facing events in a way. So EGX is very much there and it's kind of more commercialized, whereas like Develop and those kinds of events are more for like networking, like the BAFTA social as well. That's a big one as well. Sometimes you're in those situations where you can't really get out, and that's fine. But for those network events, I haven't really quite figured it out particularly.
Yeah.
But for your normal kind of socializing kind of events, it's fine just to be like, okay, I need to decompress. I just need to listen to some chill beats to calm down to, or something like that kind of thing. Whatever your jam is.
Yeah, I think just bring in those things that are going to help you. Whether that's headphones, I always make sure I have snacks. I get super hangry, and it takes a lot out of you as well. Like, you lose a lot of energy, get into the event, walking around, it's probably hot, there's a lot of people, you're going from one end to the other. Just making sure you have a snack. They're also always so overpriced at events.
Also take a bottle of water, hydrate. Seriously, like you don't want to be walking. You don't want to be, if you do cosplay. I'm sure you know this already. Like, you don't want to be walking around in a cosplay and basically overheating and being stressed and having like 3 or 4 tears in your costume or something that need to be fixed before like a showcase or a cosplay contest. So pack water, pack cosplay medic items like whatever you need to rebuild outfits and things like that.
Yeah. And if you're going for a more, like you said, a more professional event, pen and paper. Like, just have a notebook. You never know if you're going to get some inspiration, you're going to meet someone, you want to put their number down, or you want to look at something, but you've got no connection because everyone's on the 5G. So just have a pen and paper. It also helps me organize to write things down physically.
Yeah.
So that kind of plan that we were talking about earlier of what you want to kind of see and do, you can also just kind of, oh, I've done that. That was great. Here's what I thought about it. You can do it on your phone if you prefer a phone. I just like writing notes. So I think that's another great thing to pack. And then a phone charger, always phone charger.
Oh yeah, phone charger always. Like even if you don't personally use it, trust me, I've had situations before where I've carried like a battery extender on me, and people have always gone, "Oh no, I've forgotten mine." Well, offer your battery charge if you feel comfortable in doing that, and you've just made a new friend potentially if you talk to them. Like that's it. Like, oh no, my phone battery is dying is probably about the best icebreaker you could probably have.
The meet cute of the 21st century is, do you have a charger?
Though I do. I think there was a couple people that still kind of took part in like smoking and vape and things like that. So that still happens, but everyone is a battery charger.
Yeah.
Everyone has a phone. Carry one.
Another thing I was going to say is to make sure you have a bank card, and this is just one if your phone dies, to get home and buy things. But also some stores, probably now everyone has card, but you never know because connection's horrible. Which also reminds me about getting there and getting home. I get very stressed out thinking about going anywhere I don't really know. So always prepare in advance, especially if you have something that you really want to go to and you don't want to miss. You have to consider there's going to be a bit of extra time to get your ticket, to get through the crowds. If it's a particularly busy event near a tube station, it's going to be a bit busy. Do you want to leave a bit earlier? So I think it's really important to set yourself a good amount of time in the morning to get there and know your route. One, know your route, and two, know a different route just in case.
Yes. I think it was at GDLX this year. We were planning kind of where the transport was around the area. And I happened to notice that we were having it the day before some tube strikes were due to happen. Or I think it was either tube or national rail strikes, can't quite remember. But yeah, that was interesting to try and work that one out to make sure people go home safe. Like, hey, don't go this way, or if you are going to go this way, leave before whatever time, or book a hotel and accommodate that way. Even though some hotels can be pretty expensive, it's a struggle.
Definitely. Yeah, hotels. As soon as an event is announced, the hotel prices will skyrocket every time. Which
Airbnb as well, they tend to a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you won't know what the date is. Some events will always be like the third. Comic-Con used to be the third weekend of May and October every year, but that might be different now. But sometimes you just don't know. So again, that's so forward planning. But when you know something's going to be announced, put it in your diary that like develop's going to be announced today, and just book the next day your stuff.
You're going to save so much money in the long run, but it's good to be. That reminds me, I should probably get on about, because we already know what the develop dates are for this for next year. So let's plan ahead of time. Yeah. I was going to ask actually, because I know you did. Am I right in thinking that you used to manage some stuff like cosplay events and things like that?
Yeah, I used to run a cosplay event called Cos Expo.
Oh yeah. So how would you how do I want to word this? Comparing, say, Comic Con back then when you were running that to EGX in your position now, how what is the difference like between those two worlds in a way for you?
It's so hard to compare because when I was doing the event and working at the event, it's such a different experience to attend in because you don't really get to enjoy much of the event, which is probably it's probably a good thing to talk about volunteering because you've obviously
Mm,
you ran some events as well. If you're going to volunteer an event, it's a great way. It is a great way to explore an event without paying a lot of the time. And you probably will get some access to easier ways to get around. You'll have spaces where you can actually sit down. You'll probably have that sort of space. So it's definitely a great thing to do. But 100% bear in mind that you won't be able to enjoy the full event because you are there to take on a responsibility and a role.
hmm.
Um, so I think if you're going into an event in that mindset of or in the capacity of working, make sure that you've set your intentions to the organizers to say, I can only do these hours because I really want to attend this. You're a volunteer, so you can have kind of a say in your shifts most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say it's very different. And sometimes it's super positive. Sometimes it means that you can walk around the big stage instead of just standing at the back. So you might be able to get a bit of a better perspective. But it might mean that you're stood outside that specific stage and you can't hear anything. So again, it all comes
Yeah.
down to planning. If you want to do it in that way, which I do highly recommend everyone does actually, it's not only a cool experience, but you'll meet some great people and yeah, you get to experience the event in a really cool way. But you might have to put some things aside to do that. You obviously don't have as much flexibility. Um, and I guess from seeing it on the organizer's side, it's it's kind of scary when you're an organizer though, because you're just like, is everyone having a good time?
Yep. I
Whereas
know
if
that
you're
feeling.
volunteering, it's not quite as much pressure. You can kind of be like, maybe I'll ask someone else to do that because I'm not sure how to handle it. Whereas when it's your event, you can be like very strict with people who aren't playing by the rules. But also, if someone isn't having a good time, it's like, oh, this is my responsibility to sort it out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can never speak to that experience. Like GDLX was, I think, the first time I've actually ran like an expo showcase kind of level event, or that in that kind of sphere. Um, and definitely like making sure people are. I think there's I'm not sure if you've seen. I think you have. Like on LinkedIn, I think a couple of days ago there was a post about. I can't remember who wrote it now, but it was about community management, and it was basically like when you do community management, it's not about you. And the moment it does become about you, then done you've not done community management right. And to some extent, that's also true of event management. Like if you're not maybe not thinking about it, but like if you're focusing on making sure people have a good time, people are safe, you know, how to improve an experience, it's a lot like not retail, like a customer facing, customer service kind of hospitality kind of job where you're there for whoever it is that is attending. Be that if your priority is making sure you know your exhibitors are having fun, if it means the attendees are having fun, talent, whoever it is. That's kind of your role, and it's your opportunity to make sure that you can demonstrate that you can manage that kind of pressure in a way. But it's a hard job. But I can say there's not much else that's really like it in terms of that kind of level and that kind of area of work, really.
Yeah, you know what? I think I would actually really recommend people try and volunteer for an event or create their own satellite mini event
Yeah.
to I think it's actually a really great way to meet people. If you can't do the pre-networking side or you're not really good at that or you're not in the right spaces to do that, I think it's a really great way to meet people when you're there and probably meet friends for like the next one.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I think some of the friends that I've gotten had pre-pandemic, at least. We had different connections. There was like people who played the same games as me. We were all obviously interested in the same show, like a couple of different shows, a couple of different movies, things like that. Um, but yeah, you're gonna meet people regardless of like what your interest is. Like, I'm pretty sure it exists, but I'm not sure where or how. But I'm pretty sure there's like a community for nearly everything in games. Like, you already have obviously Women in Games, that is a fantastic organization. You've got POC in Play, I think it is. There's people of color out making games for queer and LGBTQIA plus people. I'm pretty sure it's like gamers climbing or um, all sorts of communities like that around. It's just, even though it shouldn't have to be that you go out and find your crowd, it is definitely the way that it is. Um, so just go find your people. That's
Yeah,
basically it. Go find your people.
you're so right. There is a fandom, a group, a community, a Discord channel, a LinkedIn group for literally everything you can think of. And the event, whichever event you're going to, will likely share some of those or have their own Discord or something set up where you can just say, does anyone who likes this sort of game gonna go that I can maybe chat to? I think people in this industry, mostly from my experience, are very lovely, and
Yeah.
especially people in the community who want to go to these events professionally and expand their network and maybe get a job or change their career or just meet people, like-minded people. They are out there. There are people like you out there. There are people who are equally feeling anxious about what they're going to do or equally feeling like they have this imposter syndrome. You will find someone somewhere who, or probably a lot of people who are in the same boat as you and would just love to actually have an ice cream on the beach or go and have a beer or just sit down and play a game. That's another great thing about a lot of gaming events, is that you can just go and play a game. There's normally games set up somewhere and you can end up being matched with someone who you can play with, and then you just make a friend and you don't even have to talk if you don't want to.
Or even just take a pack of cards, or literally any board game. Like, you could probably bring a small set of travel chess, and you'll probably find a friend out of it.
That's a great idea. I might try that. Just set up a little table wherever you are and just be like waiting for player two.
Games.
Player two, anyone? Anyone player two?
If only. Uh, I'm I'm
I'm
now
I'm
th-
writing that on my
I'm
list to
now
pack.
I'm now thinking the next GDL event is just board game day somewhere.
That'd be great fun. Bring a board game. Bring your own board game.
I know exactly what I would do. I'd probably run like a Dungeons and Dragons one shot or something like that. That would be something that I would do, because I just naturally like storytelling. And yeah, that's definitely D&D is definitely like, as well as like other tabletop RPGs. Like, that's definitely a way to do it.
Yeah. I was just looking at my games, wondering which one I'd bring. Um, I love that. I've just put on my little. I've been writing down a little pack list, and I've just put mini chess example, e.g., mini chess. I
You're
think that's a great
welcome.
idea.
You're welcome.
So something we spoke a little bit earlier about having a break, and I think a lot of people experience this where you have this moment of, do I just need a break or am I done?
Mhm.
And I think I have maybe not always approached that in the right way. Instead of just taking a break first, I've been like, my battery's done, I'm out, and I've
Yeah.
left. And then I've got home and been like, I wish I'd just stayed a bit longer. I think if you're in that situation, what would you kind of suggest doing?
I mean, I've definitely found myself in that situation, but I don't think I'm too good at like. I guess disengaging is probably the best way that I would call it. Like for me, it's like I think because of how I personally feel like emotions and things like that, it's still going to be different for different people. Some people are more practiced at their coping mechanisms, others aren't. I think for me, it's just I feel it's like an intense like drain in a way. Like it's it's not something that can always be like, okay, I know that this is only like a small thing versus no, I'm out. Um, but I think as harsh as it might sound, like you're not gonna know your limits until you actually find your limits and like go and do things. Like
Yeah.
it shouldn't be that way. You obviously know your own comfort level. It's just a case of I think just knowing when you actually are done. And honestly, this industry is so nice. Most people will check on you to say, are you okay? Is there anything we can do? Do you just need to, do you need a break? Do you need time out? Or most people will check on you, and it's lovely when they do. And most people are understanding when you need to, when you do need to go because, for whatever reason it is. It's just kind of when you're in that moment of like not being sure, I would like obviously take a look at what you set out to do from the event, how much of it have you achieved, and kind of set a kind of comfortable thing where like, okay, I've only done half the things, or I've done three-quarters of the things, arbitrary percentage, let's say. And if you feel like that you've done a good amount, even if it's only one thing, then that's fine. Like that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I use this I guess strategy coping mechanism when I'm in a situation like that where number one, like you said, what was my intention of coming here? Have I completed that? And these are all the things I wanted to see and do today. Have I done that? Yes or no? And if it's a no, but you're done, that is also absolutely fine. I think sometimes we might not have had a good sleep or it's not what we expected. And it is absolutely 100% okay to just say, this is it, I'm done for today. But something that I do when I'm feeling normally when I'm feeling quite anxious, or which is normally when I'm going to an event, or normally when I'm going somewhere I don't know very well,
Yeah.
I will just think about the next thing.
Yeah.
So instead of looking at your list and going, it's midday, I wanted to go to 3 more talks and then this after thing dinner, and I was going to have a chat with X person about mentorship. If you just look at the next thing and go, right, it's midday, the next thing's in half an hour. I'm just going to try and do the next thing.
Yeah.
And even break that down even more. I'm just going to walk to the next thing. And then when you're there, readjust and say, okay, I'm going to sit down and watch this panel, or I'm just going to sit down in front of this panel.
Yeah.
And then you might think, okay, I'm here now, I'll do this one. Then afterwards, look at what's on your list next and go, okay, there's something in an hour. I'm going to go and get some food. And just take every step one by one. And sometimes all of a sudden it's then the end of the day and you've done all the things that you wanted to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you could also do is like if you're, I think from a networking perspective, like if you're at an event that is only like an evening or like a social, and you do feel like you need to get out, do that, and maybe just focus on getting home safe. Next thing you're doing, getting home safe. How are you when you are back at home or wherever you feel safe and comfortable? How are you going to um, decompress, analyze everything you've done, and what does that look like? How are you gonna practice that self care? Is it just like, okay, it's, I've gone through most of this social event. I'm just gonna go home and have a bath because that's relaxing. Or like, okay, I'm gonna be on whatever form of transport for say an hour or so. I'll just listen to this one album that's gonna calm me down, and usually like depending on whatever it is, like usually that kind of takes the edge off it. But that obviously depends on like whatever it is that you feel is right for you, really. And then when you get to that point of like, okay, I'm back home or wherever I am, safe, then you can begin to kind of unpack like what was it specifically that kind of started making you feel anxious or drained or things like that. And you can kind of almost prepare for the next one before it even happens. Like, okay, I knew that it took too long for me to get food, or this panel wasn't what I thought it was, or I enjoyed this part of this thing, but I didn't enjoy this part of the other thing. Like, you can plan to like in advance to be like, okay, I want to do more of X and less of Y, for example. Like you can know like what certain types of events really kind of fit with how you network or how your brain functions or anything like that, really. And just focus on doing those rather than doing the things that kind of push your comfort zone too far in a way.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to look at it after the event, instead of thinking about, because when it's a professional event, I go home and I'm like, what did I learn? Who did I meet? Like, what's the next
Yeah.
steps? But actually, the first step is, did I enjoy today? What parts of today did I enjoy? What parts of today did I feel were purposeful for me? And I think that's a really awesome way to make sure that the next one is great, and making sure that you don't just go to everything, which I think, especially when you're in a position like both of us, where we're looking for kind of full-time roles and working out what we want to do, it's really easy to be like, I'm going to go to everything and it's all going to be purposeful. It's not all going to be right for you. It's not all going to be purposeful.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really awesome technique to come home, have a bit of self-care, and then be like, did I enjoy today? Is it something I want to do again? And what was good about it?
I know for me, like most of the networking events I do is usually like in the evening or at night. So like I'll probably delay that kind of whole reflection process until after I've woken up. Like I get as much of a full rest as I can, and then like if I have no like we mentioned, like having taking a notebook or writing notes on your phone, wherever's best. Like if you do that in the moment and you do like go to sleep or whatever, you've got a point to pick back up on. Like you have those notes to be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. Oh, I need to go and do email this person or whatever else. Like you have ways to kind of. I've just thought of a pun. You basically have a save point. You have a moment where you've gone, okay, I need to remember this specific piece of information, or I need to do this task. You've got a quest log basically, of things to do after the event, which you can kind of focus on once you're done personally with the event in a way. As long as obviously don't burn yourself out or anything.
Yeah. And I think as well, like we were saying earlier about pre-networking, the post-networking is not just about professional networking. I think it's really great to see, chat to your friends and be like, what did you do and what did you enjoy? Because you would have done some different things as well. So it might be, I didn't really enjoy this panel, but someone says they really liked this interactive talk they did. So you might think, well, next time maybe I'll swap this that I would usually go for and try this out.
Yeah, I think for me it's a lot of oh god, I had a point, I just forgot it. Like,
Go back to your save point.
yeah, go back to the same point.
Look at the quest log.
Yeah, it's see, I've lost my own save point now. Go on.
So good. I really liked what you said about using your save point though. I wrote that down. I think that's a really lovely way to just wrap up the day. You know, I would have to get everything out of my head a little bit, so I might just put it in a voice note or just write it down, and then in the morning just come back and be like, okay, what happened yesterday? What did I like? Was there something that triggered me and actually I couldn't do the rest of the day? Or was yesterday just a really good day and I managed to get through it? Or what did I do differently?
Yeah, just celebrate successes where you can as well. Like, you have, that was the point I was going to make. So this is something I've been doing recently a little bit more. It's so even though LinkedIn is like very professional, treat it like a social network. Like, if you're talking about like post networking and things like that, it's not just about kind of sending emails and doing the really almost corporate-y kind of freelance-y kind of sending out emails and things like that. It can just be something simple as like, quick text message, quick, DM or anything like that. Something that I've been doing a little bit more is like reacting and commenting on people's posts. Just to show like, I guess, a little bit of engagement. It definitely shows like more of that kind of personality side to things, which I think gets lost in kind of like the networking a little bit, because you're talking, for maybe in certain situations you're talking for like 3 or 4 hours maybe, and it's all business. In some cases, where some people kind of treat networking like, okay, I'm done with business for the day. I'm here to relax. And treating your post networking in the same way, like networking is part of a lot of people's jobs in the industry. That's completely fair. Knowing your limits when to stop working is also really important. I'm looking directly at the camera because I know there's someone very specifically we both know that needs to do that. It's me, joke. But you need to know your limits, and post networking or post convention, post, whatever it is. Yep, absolutely follow up on certain things, but only if they're like urgent. But don't be afraid to add like, I know every developer, I kind of tend to write a pre and post event post to be like, hey, this is why I'm coming down to this event, and this is why, or this is what I'm excited to tell you that I'm doing. And then afterwards it's obviously like, so this is what we did, this is what I think went right, went wrong, can't wait to do it again next year, or maybe not, whatever. And obviously engaging with other people that are doing the same thing, like, if there are photos of an event that you've run, engage with them, say, comments, whatever reaction is on LinkedIn or whatever platform it is, things like that are helpful, because messages aren't the only way to kind of get people to remember you in a way. If you're like in our position where we are trying to find engagement, I hate that word, in that sense. So, just, talk about nerdy stuff or something, I don't know.
So we are.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to something you said about the like enjoying it. It's fine if you want to go to a professional event and just have fun and just make friends. It's really easy to be at an event that's, in your industry like that, like develop, and think that you have to make it a day of work. Absolutely, it's a great tool to do that and great for networking and, expanding your horizons. But also, if you just want to go and enjoy yourself, that's fine too.
Just go get ice cream with some friends, easy.
Yeah, get ice cream on the beach with GDL.
Maybe next year.
Maybe. Well, it's sold out twice very quickly, so
I know it's sold out once because we made a little bit of an error. A little bit of an error. And then second time, I think it's sold out, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it seemed popular enough, so we might do it again. Who knows?
Well, if we do and you see us, we will just be there for a nice, happy time. So,
If anyone wants to buy me ice cream, mint or Oreo flavor. I'm
also,
kidding.
also mint for me, thank you. And I'm not kidding.
you're too, you're too humble.
Please buy me ice cream, and I will be your friend.
Unless it's, is it ever too cold for ice cream for you?
No, oh my goodness, never.
How
We'll cut that
dare it?
out. That's a rogue
Nah,
comment. No joke.
oh, no, keep it in. It's funny.
And I think with that, ending on ice cream and our ice cream orders, that concludes another episode of the Game Dev London podcast. Dan, if anyone wants to find out more about you, where can they find you?
I'm on the GDL Discord server pretty much all the time. Apart from that, I'm not actually. The funny thing is, I'm not really anywhere because I've had to try and cut down on social media usage. So I guess LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. If there's places, you'll find the links in the description or somewhere, I suppose. We'll figure it out. I'm really bad at selling myself, as you can tell.
We're going to do another episode on that. And I've been your host, Roxanne. You can find me in most of the same places as Dan, Roxanne Marshall on LinkedIn. And most of my gaming focused socials are Xai Gaming, that's XAI Gaming. And of course, follow Game Dev London. We are gamedev.london across most platforms. And we will be here around the same time next week. Catch you soon.